Awesome. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. My name is Daniel Barrero Tega, and I'm the program specialist at the SGSO Network. And I'm super excited to be here with you all at it's May. I keep getting May and June mixed up. At our May webinar, Indigenous Connections from Classroom to Cafeteria. So this is part two of our Indigenous Connections in School Gardens webinar series, and today we're here to talk about making really explicit and meaningful connections with local ancestral knowledge. And we're here joined by the Farm to School team from Hardin School District. So I'm so excited to be here with you all. Again, keep chiming in the chat. We're talking about where you're tuning in from, your name, where you're tuning in from, and what's a seasonal activity, sorry, not a seasonal, a local activity that you're excited to do as we turn from spring to summer. So please keep going in on the chat. We're just gonna go through some general announcements. Before we get started, if this is the first time that you tune in with us, welcome. We are the School Garden Support Organization Network, or affectionately called SGSO Network, and we're an open peer-to-peer learning network of school garden professionals. So we provide resources, professional and leadership development, as well as platforms for our members to connect. And this is for folks that are providing programming at the local, state, regional, even national, arguably international audience as well sometimes. So we have folks tuning in from many different countries sometimes. So that's really cool. So welcome. We're really excited to be here with you all. And this is one of the ways in which we share knowledge and expertise from across the network. Next slide, please. So some general housekeeping announcements. This webinar will be shared. You'll get it in your email in a couple days, and it will also live in a recording library on the SGSO Network website. In the chat, we will drop the resource handout, which includes the slide deck for today. So if you'd like to follow along your own, that will be available for you, as well as additional resources that our presenters curated for you to continue learning on this topic. We also encourage you to share resources in the chat. So I will be monitoring the chat. Ooh, that's a hard word to say. I will monitor the chat, and I will collect all the resources that you all share, and I will make an updated version of the resource handout with the audience shared resources. We will be here today for 75 minutes. We will go to the top of the hour with content, and we will have a Q&A in the last 15 minutes. So please drop your questions in the chat. I will collect them so we can address them then, or use the Q&A function. Use the Q&A function at the bottom of the chat as well. I see that the resource handout permissions, is always really humbling. I will change those in a minute. Thank you all so much for your patience. We will also be sharing our feedback survey link. Please consider filling it out before you leave today. We really want to learn what is the content that makes you excited, that you need, that will be useful, as well as how you experience the things that we're putting out as well. So we want to make sure that we cater to what the network needs. So please consider sharing your feedback with our feedback survey. Next slide, please. Some other additional general announcements. If you're really excited to talk with folks that are in similar organizations, in similar roles, or in similar regions, the SGSO network has. Thank you so much for the updated permissions, Tristana. We have peer learning communities. These are communities that are member led, and they meet anywhere from once a month to every quarter around different topics. So some examples that might be relevant for the audiences today are elementary, middle, and high school peer learning communities. We have a program manager, some program directors, peer learning community. If you work at a statewide network, either in Farm to School or with the School Garden Network, we have a Farm to School and School Garden Network Leaders PLC, as well as if you work at a district office and you'd like to meet with folks that work at a district office to support school garden programs, we have a district level school garden programs PLC. We also have many other topics, so please definitely check out our interest form that is dropped in the chat. And if you see a topic that is not there and you would like to start one, feel free to send an email to info@sgsonetwork.org, and we will follow up with next steps to get you started on a new peer learning community or affinity group as well. Apologize. We also have affinity groups. These are for folks of different identities as well. So that's of interest, definitely check it out. We also have, this is a reminder that we have an upcoming webinar, or rather a virtual gathering. This virtual gathering is all about fundraising and collaborative sustainability. And this is with the understanding that the current funding environment is changing very quickly. So we want to go back to community, really harness expertise. We'll have pre-selected speakers that will share approaches or frameworks that are working for them related to pivoting or approaching new sources of income, having creative ways of applying for funding, whether that is by themselves or with partner organizations, or building new collaborative partnerships. So we will also feature some in-the-moment resource share-outs. So if you get inspired, or if any of the presentations remind you of something, there will be time for you to come off the mic and share your expertise, as well as Q&A for any of the presenters or the community at large. We're still looking for potential presenters, so definitely if you feel like you have learned something, not a full-fledged solution, but something that is working for your organization when it comes to funding, by all means, definitely flag it under registration, and we would love to feature you for a short 3 to 5 minute presentation, very low lift. Next slide, please. And this is super exciting. We're starting to count down the days for the 2026 Growing School Garden Summit, and our call for presenters is open now. So the 2026 Growing School Garden Summit will be in Phoenix, Arizona. And this is a national gathering hosted by the Sprouts Healthy Communities Foundation and planned in partnership with LifeLab as well as the SGSO network. So call for presenters is open. There's many different formats of presentation that include lesson demonstrations, indoor and cooking demonstrations possible as well, or more deeper dive style workshops and main stage lining talks. So definitely check out the call for presenters to see the different formats and apply. Application will be open through August 1st. We're super excited for another amazing conference full of learning. That's it from me. I've done enough talking, so please join me in welcoming our amazing presenters of today from the Harding Farm to School team. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We're excited to have you all today. We'll introduce our team here in just a second. We are the Hardin School District. We are two departments here. And we are going to tell you a little bit about our farm to school program and how we interact with the school nutrition department, and just how we've built our program from the ground up, and really done our best to connect classroom, cafeteria, and communities in a way that is reflective of our community. So I will have Marlo start by introducing herself.
Hi, I'm Marlo Spring. I am the Director of Nutrition for Hardin Public Schools here in Montana. I've been a chef my whole life and made the change to public school nutrition about 6 years ago.
And
Kat?
hi, I'm Ellie Ross again. I am the director of Farm to School for the school district. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I've been in Bighorn County for about 12 years now. I started with the school district as a food course service member back in 2015, and I just never left. So over the past few years with the district, the role has really changed. I started in the classroom, mostly building curriculum and expanding growing capacity at each school. So now I really focus on the infrastructure for all of our schools. But we are very lucky to have someone to provide lessons now. And so I will pass it over to Kat.
Hello, my name is Keianna Cachora, but I go by Kat. I've lived here on the reservation for a majority of my life. I'm Absalaga and Dene, and I was born in New Mexico, moved here when I was about 3 and just lived here ever since. I also attended over at Hardin School District from kindergarten all the way up until I graduated in 2018. And I was very fortunate to meet Ellie while I was attending school. I was part of their school garden club. And after a while, she presented me with the job that I have now, which is working with Farm to School. And I am forever grateful to be a part of this team and then also getting to teach the younger kids as well. And what's really neat about this job is I get to learn new things along the way as well as connecting with my culture.
So a little bit about what to expect for today. I know we have people joining from all over, so we'll tell you a little bit about the Apsalalge land that we're on today, where we're coming from, a little snapshot of hunger in our community, and then pretty much how we structure our program is classroom, how we've incorporated traditional foods, how we've tried to grow our program with intention. Marla will then take over with how we relate to the cafeteria and how what we do in the classroom is reflected in the cafeteria. And then Kat and I will bring it home with community and engagement and what that means for our community and future generations. Like Daniel said, he is gracious enough to help navigate the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in there, and we will be sure to leave enough time at the end for all your wonderful questions. So to get started, Bighorn County is located in southeast Montana. We are definitely in the Great Plains side of the state. Our district has about 1,800 students made up of 7 schools, pre-K through high school. The county itself is over 3 million acres, 2.2 which include the Crow or Apsalalge Reservation. So it is very vast, rural, and it does include the 7 districts of the Crow Reservation. The Crow Reservation also borders the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. And so that gives you a little bit of a look as to where we're also looking at local and traditional foods. We do have a nice regional block, but a lot of our local foods are coming from the western side of the state. And so I'll let Kat tell you a little bit about the history here.
Forgot I was muted, sorry. So as you can see on your right-hand side, the blue flag is going to be our Northern Cheyenne tribe, which is our neighboring tribe. And then off to the left is the Crow flag. And so since we are a district that is in the middle, kind of, we have a lot of students that come from the Northern Cheyenne tribe as well. And also, underneath, you'll see a image of some teepees. We have the biggest gathering of teepees throughout the world, that is our Crow Fair celebration, and that is and I quote, the capital teepee of the world. There's over 1,000 teepees that are pitched every year, and when I say crow, or whenever you hear me say Apsalalge, Apsalalge is the translation or the meaning of the children of the large-beaked bird. Um, Back when settlers came, they had mistranslated it, and so they just started saying crow. So we'll be using those terms interchangeably. But yeah, if you don't have anything to do in August, the 3rd week of August is our annual Crow Fair celebration, and that is just to bring in, it's our new year. So we're bringing in the new year, and yeah, it's always a fun time, and it's a week-long celebration.
And as you can tell in the portrait of the Hardin portrait of a student, portrait of a graduate. Language is alive and well, and we try to reflect that both in our program and across our district. And so hopefully you'll get a real sense of that today as well. In terms of hunger in our community, we are a primarily agricultural community. It is primarily commodity crops, a sugar beet, which I had never heard of before I came to Montana, and cattle, some lentils, things like that. So hunger in our community, this is especially close to my heart. On my other days, I also run the food bank here in town that serves all of the county. And so these numbers are actually a little bit lower than what they are now. Our food insecurity rate is closer to 17%. And we know that through a local native-run nonprofit called Plenty Doors, one of our neighbors did a study that every 80 cents of every dollar earned in Bighorn County leaves the community. So There's a huge economic divide. There's a lot of people that are eligible for SNAP, and it is very underutilized within our community. And so in addressing this, we know that both school meals, food on the weekends, and as well as having that sustainable knowledge, both in the classroom, cafeteria, and at home, is really important to addressing a lot of this insecurity. And so that brings us to Farm to School. Like I said, we started back in 2015. I started as a food corps service member, and at that time, the superintendent, the previous superintendent and the previous food service director were the only two people that knew that I was coming. And so the first year was a lot of, hi, what are you? What's this? What can this mean? And so that started with maybe 1 or 2 lessons per month across all the schools, 2 weekly lessons in K through 5 across 3 of our schools. And Kat has been able to continue that to this day. And so luckily, as somebody who's not from here, our program is really rooted in building relationship and being able to partner with local entities to figure out how to empower students and learn about different traditional foods. So in the classroom, one of the things that we do is, and always make sure, is to make sure that we're starting small. I didn't know how to get bison for lessons to start off with. And so one thing that we did is having Harvest of the Month in our schools, going with the recipes that we already know, and then being able to incorporate a much lower lift like mint, something that we had in the garden, something that grows around here. And anytime we have that knowledge from a wonderful book, you'll see several times in this presentation, a Taste of Heritage by Alma Snell. We make sure to have both the Crow pronunciation and any information about that. So we already had this vanilla beet ice cream. And so being able to include mint has been really helpful and a really easy way to incorporate traditional foods, as well as talk about food, not just as a nourishing, nutritional sense, but in a ceremonial way. Mint is typically used in the Sundance. And so being able to talk about traditions and the role that food plays in ceremonies is really important to what we bring into the classroom. Another aspect is just having the space to let students learn and play and have that hands-on experience. Especially in the beginning, we had no gardens, no growing space. And to top it all off, our growing season is incredibly short here in Montana. So being able to find ways of having hands-on lessons, letting students just be able to engage with the food, not only learning what it's supposed to taste like, but what it feels like, how it can be used. And so now you can see the teepee and the horse. Here we have a lentil lesson and just letting students play with their food. They naturally created this artwork, and so we were able to then incorporate that into future lessons and have printouts and let students create their own artwork from there. So as long as it's hands-on, we know that that a lot of the knowledge and ways of growing up are going to come through regardless. And a big aspect of that is getting our hands dirty, getting into the dirt, and partnering with local farmers, local gardens. You can see here our local tribal college, Little Bighorn College, and then going to the farm field trips. And you can see Kat back in the day at our farmers market, being able to set up and just kind of have taste tests or events and get out into the community so that it really brings in a lot of that conversation of, well, what are traditional foods or what grows around here or what's missing and what is in abundance. And so that is a big part of being able to have that hands-on experience when we didn't have that infrastructure built into our schools. So partnering with the farmers to have students go out and harvest, like you can see in the bottom left, students went to the Little Bighorn College garden and harvested some zucchini, and then we walked the block back to their school and made a vegetable scramble with that, with local eggs and the zucchinis that they picked. So another aspect of incorporating traditional foods is focusing on that ceremony piece, and also food preparation techniques. So this is the book that I mentioned earlier, A Taste of Heritage. We didn't have access to as much local or traditional foods, but we could get local beef, at least in small quantities at that point. And so we used a recipe from this book that allowed us to talk about traditional recipes and different ways of preparing food. It really leads nicely into talking about dehydrating and harvesting and different food preparation techniques. So one of our harvests of the month is beef, and so we're able to include bison and have a beef or bison taste test, or use this recipe that the students deemed a meatloaf meatball. It's really good, and they made the pickles in class, so being able to then go back and have both of those as a snack. We also try to make sure that we're using localized knowledge. So this is a series, Lily Goodpath books, becomes the Buffalo. There's a few others that were written through Montana State University in Bozeman, and those students, one of those students is from here, and so being able to share that within the community throughout the schools at any age is a great way of connecting bison to buffalo and to what efforts are being done here. As our program grew, we had more access, we had more knowledge, and we had more demand for different activities. So we were also able to do this pemmican lesson. This is Tashina Loudhawk. She was one of our food corps service members. So her, myself, and a community member, Sloan Reelbird, we were able to make pemmican in class with our 5th grade students at Crow. You can see they got to do every aspect of making pemmican, from the choke cherries we harvested from Tashina's, near Tashina's land, near her house at the beginning of the year that were frozen. And we also used choke cherries that we harvested with those students at the beginning of the year, right outside their classroom. And froze those until around this time of the year, we were able to make, take those choke cherries, add a little bit of fat, and have dried deer meat and elk meat to make these pemmicans, and then dehydrate them. And so that was a great way of incorporating how food was prepared, how fat keeps food safe when there's no refrigeration and things like that. So this is something that we're very proud of, and we always try to make sure that no matter when we do something, we continue to do that. So every fall we do go out with the 5th grade classes and harvest choke cherries that are by their classroom.
My name is Tina Laphock, and some thoughts I have about our pemmican project. Well, it's this saying where if you have traditional knowledge, you need to share traditional knowledge. In order for our cultures to survive, we have to be willing to share. We have to be willing to share what we know. So I was so honored to be a part of this project and share with the kids what I know. And I felt like we empowered so many kids, because now they all know
Uh-oh.
what goes in wasna, pemmican. They're all able to home and replicate that. We were all able to experience this connection to our ancestors just by making this food together, because this is the food that sustained our ancestors and made it so that we're able to be here today. So that was so beautiful to me.
So we were very, very lucky to have Tashina, and just a few of her reflections on that project. Another thing that we do throughout the years is making sure that we're always incorporating language. So anytime we have a poster that we have in Farm to School, like the apples, we make sure to put the Crow language on it, as well as the translation. You can also see partnerships here with the Crow language classes and the art classes that students made, and then we were able to hang them throughout the cafeteria. So language has been a huge part of engaging with students and being able to have students really take ownership in what they're learning, especially as somebody not from the community and not a Crow speaker. Being able to have them teach me has been a really important part of growing our program and relationship with the students and taking pride in what they're learning. At that, you'll hear these posters that Kat has in the cafeteria here that we like to hand out to parents, community members, and so making sure that whatever we're doing is being shared in the classroom, students know, but then also being able to take that into different settings. So this is Alma McCormick. She is the head of Messengers for Health, which is a nonprofit around here, and her granddaughter, who is now in middle school. But we did a taste test just like we do in the classroom and cafeteria. All of the students knew who I was and what a taste test was and how to go about that it didn't cost anything, that it was fun, free, something new. And then having Alma there, this community leader, to be able to speak to parents and elders in Crow about lentils, about what a taste test is. There were so many adults that were passing by because they thought they had to pay for these samples. So it was just a great example of we didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know that that language barrier was there. So making sure that it's incorporated into all that we do is a huge aspect of making sure that it's accessible and reflective of our entire community. And so with that, that's a little bit about what our classrooms are like, both in the classroom, at the farm field trips, and with the community. But now Marla will tell you a little bit about how that plays into the cafeteria.
Thank you, Ellie. We have 7 cafeterias here in Hardin, and I like to say that we get to ride on Ellie's coattails. She gets to go into the classroom. Her and Kat get to go in the classroom and talk about nutrition and get the kids excited about trying new foods and eating healthy. And we couldn't replace that with anything else. That's super important to have that excitement. And then we try to mimic what she does in the cafeteria and keep that conversation going. That is our, mission statement there. The Hardin School District Nutrition Team is committed to providing delicious, balanced meals while striving for continuous improvement. We want the space that they eat in to be comfortable and not filled with rules. They should be able to learn and gather and eat and be presented with healthy, nutritious meals that they hopefully love. Next slide. One way that we found to be very helpful in finding out what our students and staff would like to see in the classroom, in Farm to School, within the Wellness Committee, as well as is we did a survey, or we've done surveys to ask how they'd like to be represented. How would they like to see their culture represented in schools? How can Indigenous foods be included across our district? Served in the school lunch meals, added to curriculum, guest speakers, annual buffalo hunt, summer camp harvesting. Those were all ideas we had, and we got to gauge people's opinions and what they would like. We got a lot of write-ins of different ideas from people, and then also let them know that we're thinking about it and that we're trying to improve and bring as much as we can into the school to get them some healthy food, to have some representation of the Crow culture, and to teach them where their food comes from. Next slide. The first ways that we wanted to tackle pairing up with the farm to school department was to mimic what they were teaching in the classroom. They're in the classroom teaching about healthy foods and where your food comes from, and then we're serving them a chicken nugget or a chicken patty or a chicken finger. You know, we had 4 different forms of a chicken, you know, breaded chicken on the menu when I started. And so we needed to improve how we were feeding the students, and have that continuous thought of healthy food and where it comes from, and being able to recognize the whole cooked items without preservatives and things like that. So we do have a salad bar in every school, and those are fresh and healthy. That's a regular salad bar right there. Sometimes that will include items like the item in the middle. I'm not sure if it's coming through well or not, but that's just roasted cauliflower with sprinkle with Parmesan cheese and a little bit of seasoning. The kids love it. Our salad bars are very popular if you are running a program where you need to meet certain guidelines. The salad bar is a great way to do that. And on the left there, we just have an example of teaching our staff more cooking skills. We didn't have as many cooking skills when I started, and we found the people that were interested and are teaching them skills to cook from scratch. We did pair with the Chef Ann Foundation, and we got a wonderful grant that is also helping us do this. And they're guiding us each step of the way and trying to teach us how to not just cook from scratch, but make it a sustainable program for us. And then we can teach other people. Next slide. So cooking from scratch is great. That was a necessary step to get the frozen burritos and frozen taquitos off of the menu. But it's important to me and my colleagues, coworkers, that we try to not only give the kids the food they want and the food that's good for them, but try to have some representation of what they're having at home or what their ancestors have had in the past. This is an example of a dish we do, and it's a baked mac and cheese, and we incorporated bison into it instead of our regular ground beef that we were using. So to get the staff excited about it, we did do a staff taste test first before we did any tastings with the students. And so we just cooked up some bison to brag about our local bison to the staff and get them on board so they could tell the kids and understand that it doesn't taste much different than beef, and understand that it's local, and tell them where it came from. You can't bring indigenous foods into the schools without cooking from scratch first. So that's the path that we are currently on. Ellie?
Yes, and so a big part of that is that we are 60 miles southeast of the biggest town in Billings, and so many of the producers on the western side of the state would come to Billings and not a step further. And so that was really hard. And so being able to partner and work together to increase our purchasing capacity was really important. One of the ways that we did that was, again, starting small, starting with one item. For us, that was apples. And we were very lucky that it is both a local Montana item as well as having a huge cultural significance. So the top 2 pictures are from Ross Orchards in Fromberg, Montana, which is a little bit south of us. But those trees and that producer actually worked with Chief Plentycoo, who was one of the last Crow chiefs. And so that strain of apples is also at the Chief Plentycoo State Park. And so being able, our producer, John Ross, his great-great-grandfather was close with Chief Plentycoo, and they shared these apple varieties. And so being able to tell our students that and incorporate that into our crunch time yearly event is really special and important for students to then chime in and say, oh, I'm related to him, or I know this, or that's where I live. So that's been something that apples are in a lot of schools, and there's definitely a huge Indigenous connection.
Thank you. So getting scratch foods into our school, local foods into our school, and Indigenous foods into our school is important. And like Ellie said, to start small. For us, we had to define, I mean, I guess I should have defined what scratch cooking is to you on this slide, because that I would recommend starting out small as well. You don't need to start baking all your own hot dog buns out of the gate. Maybe you start with some soups that are from scratch, picking a cooked chicken breast that's whole muscle meat instead of a breaded chicken breast that's like ground and pressed or what have you. So define your scratch cooking and take it easy. Do a little bit at a time, and then define your local. I'll talk about that first. We are out here in Hardin, Montana. We are in the middle of an agricultural area, but like Ellie said, we've got sugar beets and we do have cattle, but we don't have, we're not sitting in the heart of Napa Valley with, beautiful gardens and a lot of produce around us. So your local might not just be your surrounding area, 5 mile radius. It could be a 20 mile radius. It could be neighboring farmers. It could be within your state. We dip into Washington state a little bit. We go to the west where the weather is better and has a longer growing season. You could call it regional instead of local if you'd like, so you're not, trying to fool anybody. And then for us, we also want to define our Indigenous. So define your Indigenous. It could just be the different people in your area, the different cultures in your area. For us, we picked characteristics relating to original people, land, and culture. And for us, that is the Crow Agency tribe and also the Northern Cheyenne. But I would say is that 60 to 70% of our student body is Crow. So it's pretty easy, easy to pick for us. Next slide. Okay, so starting off with, like I said, starting slow, we looked at our menu. And so this is an example of items on our current menu: romaine, greens, broccoli, all those items. And then look what's available locally. Maybe you don't have a rancher producing chickens or somebody selling beets, but look at what is available local in your town or near you and switch it out. Maybe you're switching green beans for garbanzo beans on your salad bar, or beets for cabbage, and do the same thing with Indigenous. So we, do a berry sauce on one of our items, and strawberries and blackberries and blueberries aren't available locally, but also choke cherries are, but they're very expensive. So we do kind of a mix. We do use our commodity strawberries and mix it with choke cherries to make our berry sauce. Blue corn tortillas instead of your yellow corn tortillas. And then we get creatively, respectfully Indigenous. Indigenous could mean many things to different people. It could be an Indigenous recipe. It could be an Indigenous style of cooking. Obviously, the baked bison mac and cheese is not a traditional recipe, but we're hoping that when the students learn about bison in class and what that meant to the Crow culture, that then when they see it in the cafeteria, an item that they enjoy eating, that they'll remember that and it will mean something to them. So purchasing from Indigenous producers is also very important. Maybe you're buying apples from a well-known family or a family that's been in the town a long time, or maybe when you buy your staff their gifts, for the year, you're buying it from a local producer, and giving money back to your community. And then market the Indigenous aspects of your menu. We have great signage for local produce and for Indigenous items. You could put the name on the menu in the chosen language And we do have a lot of posters and different things up to market that, so that students can make the connection and hear those words. Thank you, Ellie. Speaking of posters, these are traditional food knowledge posters that we have up in the cafeteria. They're beautiful, they're super colorful. I'm not even sure this picture does them justice. Ellie, I'll let you explain a little bit about well, that does. Is this where you want to explain about them? Okay.
Yeah, so we had a small grant actually through the food bank to incorporate more traditional foods, and especially with how Crow tribal food laws are, we couldn't essentially buy food to then hand out at the food bank, and so we were able to um, create these posters with a former student, Deshauna Anderson, and she created a set of 12. And then it was COVID and we were in drive-through, and so nobody saw them for 2 years. As soon as we opened back up, everyone was enthralled and super interested and wanted to know more. And so we were able to, in partnership with the school, commission her to do another set of 12. And so we have 24 traditional food posters that we have in the cafeteria. Marla will tell you a little bit about the significance of that. And then this year we also drained all of the color from them and made a little coloring book. So that has been a wonderful way of engaging all ages in our community, and both in terms of language and knowledge, and then having people really just talk about like, oh, this is how I learned it, or this is how I learned it, has been really, really important, and really brightens up all of our cafeterias.
I couldn't have guessed the impact that these posters would have had. It's one of my favorite things when we have adults in the cafeteria, more so than the students, to be honest. The adults come in for parent-teacher conferences or a feed or graduation, and in every cafeteria, these posters are hanging up, and they're very eye-catching. And it's so neat to see the grandmas talking to their daughters, talking to their sons, talking to their husbands, and pronouncing the word and sharing different pronunciations of it, what they learned about it, what they know it does. And it really, like, it's a very touching moment, because then they share it with their kids or grandkids. And then they also, hopefully gives them the idea that we're working hard um, to share the culture, and not being from the community. That is very important to me. Sometimes we feel like we're guessing of what people may want, and those surveys and just seeing the positive reaction was such a treat. And so they've been very popular no matter where we go.
And these were the posters that you saw Kat in the picture with, handing out at parent-teacher conferences. Everything for us is open source, so you are welcome to utilize these. You're welcome to use them as a conversation starter for what Indigenous foods would be relevant for your area. And we just ask that you always credit the author or the artist and organizations, which is all in the resource handout. So lucky you. We also had our teachers nominate student athletes, student council members, to really be reflective of the community. And so we had students pose with different food items. And then we posted these particularly in our K-5 schools. And it was so fun to watch the younger students go, that's my cousin, that's my sister. And so really being able to have something to look forward to. And as they got older, and knowing that the high schoolers are really setting that example within their community.
It was such a simple thing, but very impactful for sure. So these are some pictures of our taste tests that we've done in the past. You see Kat there smiling with the kids. It's more fun than serving lunch, let me tell you. No matter what we're tasting, the kids are excited to be involved, and they give their feedback, and they know it's going to be a fun day. So in the cafeteria, we'll have a taste test when we want to test out a new item, or advertise a new item or brag about something, or it is just something seasonal on the Harvest of the Month menu. Here we have a taste test for a product we call Montana Marinara that's made here in Montana. And it really does get the kids involved. The teachings that the kids have with Kat and Ellie really improve their excitement for trying new things. Always say that I'll see a high schooler or a middle schooler that runs into Ellie that she had 5 years ago, and they're so proud and say, Miss Ellie, I tasted beets today, or I still like kale, or my mom's making that corn salsa recipe or whatever. It really leaves a lasting impression, and gets them excited about eating healthy, hopefully. These are examples of some of the wonderful artwork Ellie, Kat, and previous members of our team have done, but that just is very eye-catching, and you can see the tried it, liked it, loved it, if you're familiar with that. You're not allowed to yuck my yum. You don't get to say that you didn't like it, but you tried it. Thank you for trying it. And they can be proud of that. These are also some of the Harvest of the Month posters as well. This is some more artwork on our cafeteria windows. On the bottom there, you see students' artwork. We had a contest through the wellness committee that we are part of to, what was I can't think of the prompt now, Ellie.
What local means to you?
Oh yeah, what local
Which-
means to you. And it was all grades. Everybody entered. The district was nice enough to give us some money for prizes, but those were the best. And then you have some really fun and engaging artwork to use for marketing for the other students, and kids like to see what their peers did. And it was really neat to see what local meant. Like you could tell the kids, grow up in an agricultural town, but it was nice to prove that they knew, see the proof that they knew what we're trying to do here.
And Chef Ann has a great template of how to roll one out in your schools.
Oh yeah.
And then a big part of being in the cafeteria, and you can see there how through all the posters, what they learned in class, what they were eating and trying in class, then they were also eating and trying and seeing on the menu. One of the other things is going the opposite way of having the community in the cafeteria. And so we've hosted several farmer in the cafeteria, kind of setting up a mock farmers market for students to just come and engage and have a taste test with their food. And not just students. We like to take as many staff. This is school nutrition department. At one of our beginning of the year trainings, they were able to go to Living Root Farms, which is a local farm here just outside of town that we get most of our local produce from. Just the scale that they're at has been really helpful. And so it was really good connecting the dots for our staff as well. And like we talked about before, trucks don't want to come to Hardin, let alone further east. So anything that we can do to increase our purchasing power, as well as support local producers that are here, build up their resources, and make sure that they know that they have a secure market with us. But then also being able to increase that purchasing power. So this year, especially with Local Food for Schools grant, that is no more. We were able to partner between the food bank and school to, we would each put in our own separate local order of food coming from the western side of the state, and then the school truck driver would go and pick it up and then deliver it to Hardin. And so really establishing those routes and everything that we can do to have more local foods, and then expand it throughout the county has been really a huge goal of our programs working together. And here you can just see some of the signage. Like Marlo said, promote everything that you do. So many times we'll for years on our salad bar, we've had eggs, and now we have local eggs. And so some people can immediately tell the difference by the color of the yolk. Others, you got to put it on there. So just having that consistency across our program is a lot and exhausting and essential. So especially across 7 schools, there's tons of things that we could be doing better, but this is also a wonderful thing that once it's made, it's done, and it's just getting it out there. Anything else, Marlo?
I'd like to touch on the challenges of getting it out there. Like she said, that is very, very difficult to organize sometimes. And Ellie has the product for us and the signs, but there is definitely a challenge when it comes to getting your staff on board to do what we consider the right thing as adults, to serve healthy food, to boil your own eggs and peel them and make them for every salad bar. Like that is so impressive to me that my staff does that without complaining. But to get your staff on board, they like taquitos, they like frozen burritos. My staff does. And so now that they have to thaw, whole roasts, marinate whole roasts, cook whole roasts ahead of time, reheat, so it's a week process sometimes to get that good food out on the serving line. And a lot of the staff might not be on board, but you got to keep going. You got to keep pushing. To them, some of them are like, I don't care where the beef comes from. I don't care that this squash was grown here. But we keep educating and keep doing taste tests for them and the students. And you'll get some people on your side. And so I like to say that we have got the majority, we were at a minority before, and now we're a majority who is agreeing with doing things the long way and the right way, and understanding that the food needs to be healthy. I had a new staff member say, this food is good, it just needs salt. Why don't you guys just put salt shakers on the tables? And that's a parent. She's a parent and a grandparent, and I wouldn't want salt on the tables at my child's school, so it's difficult to please everybody.
It's also hugely helpful having that knowledge and that practice to then be able to go to your school board or try to codify it in the school handbook to be able to say, like, this is how much local costs, this is how much we can get with this. And so just making sure that it's self-sustaining in all of those ways, even if you don't have the infrastructure to grow as much as you want, but then to be able to purchase from local producers is a huge selling point, especially in our agricultural community. Oh, good. I was afraid I forgot all these things. So just something to think about. Maybe Daniel will pop on. Okay, cool. So just wondering so far, like what you've seen, and this is actually a question from that survey that Marlo shared. And how do you think you are able to integrate into your program? What is an easy lift, a doable thing for you? Whether it's posters and cafeteria signage, integrating it into the curriculum, offering professional developments, menuing a new item, or just inviting community members in to speak.
So answers are coming in. Let me know when you want me to end the poll, but answers are still they're rolling. We'll be able to get to see them in a minute.
Perfect. We'll give everyone about 5 to 10 more seconds. Looks like you're getting them in there. Gorgeous.
Awesome. And yeah, we're still rolling. 5 more seconds. They're still coming. And All right. I'm gonna shut it down. And no, there we go. So you should be able to see the results.
I
There we
can.
go.
Go. Now you can see the result. Everybody can see the results.
Awesome. A good mix, definitely curriculum and signage. So super excited. Hopefully some of the resources will give you some other ideas as well. And actually, Kat and I are about to talk a little bit more about integrating it into the curriculum so that it is long-standing within the community. Alrighty. Oops. So, just a little bit about our community again. And you can see Kat in her high school days. I will never forget. There was a community farm that just started, so we got a bed as farm to school. And end of the year, we just took some students out, and I think it was Kat that or one of these gals that said, "Whoa, I've never picked a carrot." So it was really fun. Maybe it was Courtney, but it was super fun to see. And you can see that top, that is panoramic of Crow Fair, but you can see just a little bit about our program, and it is really student-led, very taste and hands-on oriented. Oops, not that way, this way. And so one of the ways as a outside member of the community, being able to start these conversations around what is traditional food, one of the most helpful things that have gotten us to where we are today is this traditional tea tasting. It is out of the Muckleshoot tribe with Rethink Your Drink Native Infusion. And I experienced this at the Native Nutrition Conference in Minnesota years ago, and now it is something that we've been able to incorporate and really start that conversation about what are traditional foods of, oh, we can do rose hips here, we can do dandelion here, what else could we do? And so and this was really one of the catalysts for making our own traditional food posters. And so it's a great way of talking about different parts of the plant, different ways of dehydrating or food preservation. And as well as on those cards, you can see we include the crow name if we have it, and on the back has a little bit of what Alma Snell said about that. We also have a quick pic of our smoothie bike because we can't help ourselves. We love using it. And those students, we actually had some leftover flathead cherries. And so we made some cherry popsicles with students. And a lot of these are at community events, and especially different health fairs and things like that. And so you can see here students getting in on the action, coming to the food bank in our greenhouse, and really giving back as part of that aspect of hospitality and involvement and helping others around you. So we're very lucky to have students and teachers willing to engage with Farm to School and think of larger projects outside of just our school, but more for our community as well. And that includes being able to offer different services, different equipment. So at the beginning of the year, we really just ask, is any teacher interested in having hydroponics? And then we send them a list of what they would like. They get to choose. And shockingly, a lot of teachers will choose the cheapest one. I'm like, okay, no problem. Let's get to then. So we provide these because we know that the champions in each school are going to do it no matter what. And so we want to make sure that we're there to support and help them with whatever they're doing. And I believe that, yeah, hands it off to Kat to talk a little bit about field trips and community members.
So yeah, like like Ellie said, it's really cool and really important to kind of have like community in the schools. Like invite, whether that means inviting people in to talk, because then these are people that you see throughout the community. Um, like being the second picture to the right, yeah, that is Latana, and she is one of the people over at LBHC who um, like goes through the that garden, or who kind of maintenances that the college's garden. And she's one of my my callas through my boyfriend, and it's really cool to be able to like see her come into the classes, and then even like his grandma who comes in and talks about like queer culture. And it's really important to have these people from the community coming in, because then when these kids leave the school, then they're able to see those people who taught them outside of school and ask them more if they want to learn more. And so being able to come together as a community and teach the youth is really important.
And so we have some like field trips. Most of these were from our summer plant camp with fourth and fifth graders at Crow School. And you can see we went berry picking, and we partnered with the summer schools to do some plant harvesting. And also Shane Doyle was able to lead us up to the medicine wheel in the Bighorns. And then we also partner a lot with Indian Education for All, which is in the Montana Constitution, requiring all schools, all teachers to include Indigenous education. It's something fairly unique to Montana. And through that, we were able to go exercise treaty rights, hunting rights. This is in Yellowstone National Park through the Friendship Treaty in partnership with the Crow Tribe. And the bison hunt quickly turned into an elk hunt. But that's all part of the learning experience. So I'll tell Kat, you can go ahead and take this over with the next few slides about our bison hunts that we've been doing.
Yeah, so here they went over at the top left, that is our wildlife and fish game. And he comes in and like explains to the kids our perimeters of our crow lands, and kind of explains what you can and can't do. And what's really cool is with IFA and with Farm to School, us collaborating, it really opens up a whole bunch of new doors to for these kids to be able to learn more, experience more. Because sometimes some of these kids can't even hunt with their families. And here on this next slide, uh, we got to do the meat processing. And so some of these kids, they were really knowledgeable, and they're like, oh yeah, I've done this before. But we've also had some kids that are like, I've never cut up meat like this. And personally, I've never cut up meat like that before either. And so it was really cool, and it was really interesting to be able to connect through that, and also to spread that knowledge. We even got to collect sinew. If you've ever seen a pair of moccasins, the type of thread that they use to bind the sole and the buckskin to it, that is what you call sinew. And it's a type of tendon that runs through the bison or through any animal. And here on these top two images, this is when we did our bison hunt, and students got to be involved in the butchering process and being able to once again get that knowledge, you know. So it was really cool to see, really really neat for them to experience that, and especially experiencing it safely. That's another big thing too, because you can go out and hunt, but you sometimes you don't know the safety measures of it too, and this provides that experience with safety perimeters.
And then we are very lucky because we also then get to go and make recipes with students. And so we get to hang out and eat as much as possible. So students used several different common recipes, a few recipes from Indigenous Kitchen. If you were on that Mariah Gladstone previous webinar. And so then students also take that meat home. We cook with it, and then we can use it within classes throughout the year. We are also super lucky to have started family cooking nights with the leftover bison and elk meat from these hunts. And so being able to engage with community and trying new recipes and having something for everyone. With that, to just kind of round out what we're excited to keep growing towards is we have a small orchard at Crow School. And so that we saw the National Farm to School Network had a grant, Seeds of Change, a few years back. And we approached the principal and said, hey, there's funding for school gardens. Are you interested? He said, nope, absolutely not. My staff is gone. I can't give maintenance any more work. No one will be here to tend to it. And so trying to figure out, well, what would be established. And of course it's native varieties. So we have June berries and choke cherries, plums. And so just having that space to be able to build that relationship between students and the land has been really important. We're also excited. We have this farm acreage here that we, as you can see, has been pretty untouched for a while, and we're excited to grow forward with that. This is our farm design using traditional berries and foods. Right now, the only structures are the barn, the high tunnel, and these raised beds here in the middle. So we are excited to have the majority of that be produced for the school nutrition programs. And then also just have student entrepreneurship and different learning opportunities for both students across the district, across our community, and open for all. So we've got a survey here. I know we're short on time. So I'll just share a few quick resources. Seed change in Native communities that I just mentioned. National Farm to School Network is a phenomenal resource. And an incredible program assessment tool is First Nations Development Institute, this Native Farm to School. It was the first assessment tool that I really realized, like, oh, we really need to have more land stewardship in our program, and realizing that we're not fully encompassing a lot of traditional teaching tools. And so that really set us on a good path of figuring out what else to include and incorporate. And with that, just a few resources. All of these are linked in the resource material, but I want to make sure that there are time for questions but thank you so much for digging in and letting us chat about what we're doing over here. Please come visit, especially in August for Crow Fair.
Please join me in giving a big round of applause to our amazing round of presenters. That is so. We reviewed this together, and just hearing it also presented has been really amazing. So thank you so much for sharing. We're just gonna move into our Q&A portion because there are some questions from the chat, and feel free to keep popping questions on the chat. We'll have about 10 more minutes for Q&A. But one of the questions said was for Marlo. How frequently do you send out your survey? Do both parents and students fill out the survey? And are there particular questions that you have found helpful that solicit productive feedback?
Well, we do it once a year, and we pick December because it's our short month of school to send that out, and it gives us some time to work on things. We have not branched out to the parents, but that is something that is very important, and I think required in the wellness guidelines. They ask, not just to involve your school, and they want, the students, they want the admin, they want the teachers and the community. I'm trying to think the most helpful. There can be some negative things, and those things can be helpful as well. It really lets you know what people think. I've worked in the food industry for a long time, and I worked at a university, and we put out similar surveys, and it was helpful to know what the students consider indigenous foods, helpful to know what the students consider healthy as well. And a lot of items that the students want tend to not be healthy. And so it gives us an idea of how, um, what things to improve upon, because we don't want them to think that healthy food doesn't taste good. That is very important to me because often those pre-made items, the burritos, the taquitos, they don't have a lot of flavor. Um, and to replace that with something that does have flavor will hopefully, inspire them. But I can't think of, Ellie, can you think of a question that really stuck out or was extra helpful? We kind of refine them each time based on the answers we get.
Yeah, we definitely keep it short, about 10 questions. I really liked, I was really surprised by how many people were interested in seeing traditional foods in the school menu a lot more, like having dry meat stew, and what it would take for us to do that. So I think all of the one thing that I would say is also having some open-ended questions.
That
That
was
was
super helpful.
cool for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other, or just having a spot for them to say their piece, was helpful.
Awesome. I did also just plug in the chat. The SGSO network has a survey library with sample questions on different topics as well in
Oh,
one of
that's awesome.
these pages in our evaluation promising practice. So definitely check that out. I actually have a question. And I have a question for you, Kat. Because in a way, as someone that has been in garden education, a success, um, with someone that received programming and then now you're delivering it. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your experience being a student and then being on the other side, as an instructor.
Yeah, so it's really interesting and it's really fun because like I since growing up here and going literally through the whole school district and then graduating and then coming into this position, it was really, really cool just because I put myself back into that spot as a kid. And the one thing, when you think back when you're a kid and somebody comes into the class during like your reading lesson or something, you're like, oh my gosh, we get to do something different. And being able to bring that excitement to those kids because I knew how it felt to be in that spot is really, really fun. And like basically, like just going in and giving them a different experience is a lot of fun too. And especially here in Crow and in the surrounding areas, a lot of times, a lot of these kids don't have like, um, like some things are going on at home and they come to school and it's able to get their minds off of it or even giving them a new experiences of especially like learning how to cook, learning how to use a pot and pan, giving them those basic life skills too is really, really fun and really interesting to see. And it's it's really, really rewarding too because I'm able to help help in a way, help these kids. Also, I'm sorry if you get some extra feedback from the background. They have a little powwow going on outside. But yeah, it's really fun and it's like it's cool because watching the program go from just our little school garden club and growing into what it is now is it's really cool. It's really fun and I'm very, very grateful to have this experience.
Awesome, thank you. That
Yeah.
that's really amazing, and I'm sure the students also feel that as well.
It's so cute because I see the kids outside of school and they're always like, Miss Cat, and I'm like, hey.
And then you're the one you're like, I used to do that with it with like with the teacher. Oh man, full circle. Thank you, Kat. That's really glad. Thank you for sharing your experience. Just a couple more questions here. Was there work to integrate the curriculum to meet Montana curriculum standards? Were teachers receptive to it? And how did you, and I would even ask, if there was resistance, how did you flip that coin?
Yeah, great question. And I don't currently have this in the resource folder, but I can definitely update it. So especially starting with food core, we had a kind of a lesson template. And so we've adopted that. So all of our lessons start with what it is, and then also the standards that it aligns to. And then all of our lessons are outlined on a chart that kind of shows the progression throughout the year. And it has started and has continued to always be an opt-in program. So Kat goes and approaches teachers at the beginning of the year. Hey, I'm back. It's happening. And most teachers can't sign up fast enough. And now we have enough momentum that we do have a curriculum director within our district, and they are very interested in making it a mandatory program. And so it literally took 10 years. It took 10 years, so it's not overnight. It does take a long time. Most of the time, people just don't know, but making it easy to see that that's already there within the standards is really helpful. And having those outlined early on, we always pitch it as we can tie it into math or language arts or whatever you have time for, wherever you need us to be in that block of time coming into your classroom. If that makes sense to then fill out what curriculum standards they have to have. So it teachers are very receptive. And we've had a lot of fluctuation throughout the years of having it, not having food core, that type of thing. So, but when it goes away, everyone's upset. So, I would be happy to share how we've outlined it to make it an easy thing to say yes to for our teachers. And we really started with the teachers, and then we're able to show the district this is important and the teachers are with us. So kind of starting on that ground level.
Yeah, we can definitely update the resource handout with that as well. We have just one more question before we wrap up. What are the various hydroponic systems that you offer to school sites? Especially looking for relatively affordable options.
I send them usually like 3 options. The ones that you saw were just off Amazon, and they were maybe they were definitely under $70. They were somewhere around there. And then we also have some aquaponics aqua sprouts. Those are a little bit higher tier. And then we also have the option of, I can't think of the company name, but they're like $300 per system. We don't have any that are like, the full tanks and tilapias. It is a pretty small pipe system. But I will make sure to get the email that I send out to teachers in the resource share for that too. I only put the smoothie bank link. I'm sorry, I didn't think through.
No worries. And okay, this is the last question. This is actually last question, I promise. And then we'll wrap up. If you could give us just a quick overview of what are your plans for the school farm and where is the funding coming for that project?
The school farm, the structures that we have now in place were all from the USDA Farm to School grant. And so we miss it. And we were eligible again this year. As you probably know, that was gutted. And so we do not have access to those funds anymore. We have not looked at private foundation funding, but we do have a lot in the past, but that is a route that we're considering going because we have several healthcare foundations and several other entities that are very interested in supporting work like that, especially as it relates to student economic development. So our next aspect of that is to be going into the food forest. And right now, when Food Corps left, Kat and I are the giant department of 2 people within the school district. So we're very lucky that the school district has taken on those costs. And no one's asked too many questions yet.
Thank you so much. That made me laugh. Thank you all so much for this amazing presentation. Again, please join me in giving them an amazing round of applause. If you could just go some wrap up announcements as we dismiss. If you can go to the next slide. Yeah, there's more slides. Yeah, we have our feedback survey. Please consider leaving some feedback. Again, this is really helpful as we try to continue to create content that is relevant, applicable, as well as engaging for you. So we really appreciate all your thoughts and suggestions, and we really take them into consideration when we craft our webinar series. Next slide, please. And feel free to continue connecting with the SGSO Network. You can find us on Instagram at SGSO Network, and as well as on Facebook, surprise, at SGSO Network as well. And if you have any other questions as well, please send us an email at info@sgsonetwork.org. And with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you again, Ellie, Kat, and Marlo, so much. Please keep us updated with the amazing work that happens at the farm. And we hope to catch you another day for everybody that joined us. So thank you again so much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.